The Mystara project is proud to present part 25 of the Lore of Mystara series. In this video, we look at the period from BC 490 to BC 441. In BC 490, the armies of Dengar pushed kobold tribes out of Dengar into the Hardanger Mountains. Waves of kobolds overran the militarily unprepared gnomish strongholds and occupied their lairs. Immortals transported the Valoin clan of gnomes to an unoccupied floating island of the hollow world they called Valoin. The kobolds also forced Hin in the Hardangers to flee to the west of the Great Bay in Norwold, where they founded Lihar. A group of Herathian magic users cooperated to seek immortality, and to improve the natural shape-changing abilities for the Arania, and to gain additional spellcasting power. Their research was successful. Hereth's best wizards volunteered to be transformed, then they started transforming into undead Yeshom. At first they retained their original alignments through sheer will, but as time wore on, they became insane, humanoid-hating recluses. By BC 490, Jibaru Fanatan pets of Herathians had mimicked their owners and had become more intelligent. We, elsewhere known as Ordana, now gave them the spark to become sentient to resist enslavement by the Herathians. Fanatans started raiding Herath during spider hunts. The Fanatans started forming clans and semi-permanent villages. Sometime between BC 487 and BC 418, Mardarua undertook the path of the Paragon in the sphere of energy. As part of her testimony, she possibly trained at least 6 warrior maiden apprentices to 13th level. For her task, she would have had to have hired a spellcaster to create a unique magic item. Mardarua attained immortality and became one of the patrons of the Kinidikayans. She was possibly sponsored by Gorm or Terastia. Her interests include birth, death, fertility, and women warriors. Having assisted his people to settle the Immortals' Arm region, so their seers lost their precognitive powers and greed, Yev disguised as Mulogo left his son in charge, and sailed back to the Serpent Peninsula in BC 480, to try to find the cause of the Tanagoro's woes. Sometime between BC 480 and AC 644, Alexander and Zenobia were born in Kinidikaya. Marmati Running Elk became a shamani of At-Ruagin sometime between BC 478 and BC 472. Sometime between BC 478 and BC 455, he studied magic intensely, with the goal of saving the children of the tiger from Atsantayotl. He studied shamani, druids, foreign magic users, Wakani and shamans to get an edge over other spellcasters. Around BC 475, the Dengar dwarfs took advantage of their time of peace, following their victory at Sardal Pass in BC 492, to begin an exploration program. Dwarven explorers established friendly trade relations with Alacian nomads. Writing was learned from humans and elves, with the dwarfs adopting their own runic writing, similar to that of the Northern Reaches. The dwarfs had mixed feelings about the humans. On the one hand, they were impressed by human ingenuity in using glass, cloth, leather, and wood to craft, but disappointed that the majority were farmers. The people of the Northern Reaches, Selenakar and the Ethengarians were, more or less, respected. The Alfheim elves were scorned for their haughty and overfamiliar behavior, but envied for their fine-crafted jewelry. The gnomes became fast friends of the dwarfs. The 5 Shires Hin were greeted cordially, but were also seen as mostly farmers. Gradually over the next 500 years, dwarfs commenced trading their craft goods and raw ores for food, beverages, leather and wooden goods, and animals with surrounding peoples. In BC 475, in an underwater cave of the Diki Ner Marzi, Yev discovered a stone monolith artifact that was behind the seer's precognitive powers and the people's greed. He was unaware it was a time machine, and accidentally sent himself 75 years into the future to BC 400. He saw that his boat was now a rotting hulk. Prior to BC 460, the kobolds had exterminated all but a few gnomes in the Hardanger Mountains within 3 decades of invading. The surviving gnomes fled. Although he could have lived at any period between BC 2000 and AC 920, the kobold legendary leader Kurtulmak, also known as the Shining One because of his plate mail armor that blinded opponents, probably led the kobold invasion of the Hardangers. Perhaps this is what kobolds refer to as their golden age. Whilst some kobolds believe the Shining One was connected to the sphere of entropy, he actually embarked on the path of the Conqueror. He built an excellent war machine and successfully used it against the gnomes in 3 battles, and conquered the Hardanger gnomes' territory with brilliant tactics. He possibly controlled at least 5,000 hit dice of humanoids, including the Hardanger kobolds, the Nolheim gnolls, and various tribes of the northern highlands of Nithia. Kurtulmak achieved immortality in the sphere of energy, and became the patron of hierarchy, kobolds, war, fire and territorial gains. His sponsor is unknown, but may have been Eirindel, in appreciation of his clever traps. Sometime between BC 460 and AC 300, the Hin, Uzamigaras, was born in the 5 Shires. He found a ring of wishes, and used a carefully worded script to gain the ability to wield arcane magic. He then discovered Kinidikaya and became its king. He plundered the city for personal gain, and actively discouraged worship of Gorm and Mardarua. He undertook the path of the Paragon in the sphere of energy, possibly sponsored by Zirchorf, Gorm or Mardarua. It is possible he trained at least 6 magic user apprentices up to 13th level, and they became the first magi of Uzamigaras. Upon achieving immortality, he became the patron of healing, messengers, and thieves. In BC 455, Marmati Running Elk was on the verge of obtaining the magical power he needed to take on Atsantiyotl's theocracy, when he was framed for murder by Tiger Clan thieves. The thieves snuck into his village and murdered the tribe's most violent and abusive member. Marmati's own daughter sentenced him to death, but he used magic to escape, and was exiled in absentia. He then left for foreign lands to learn more, but found himself caught up in a deep web of deceit by a female magic user. He fell in love with her, while she drained his power, trying to understand the magic of the shamani. It should be noted that Gaz 14 says this woman was Glantrian, however Glantri did not yet exist. So she may have been from the lands now called Darakin. In BC 452, Marmati finally escaped the clutches of the magic user, but found himself aged to his mid-70s due to her leeching of him. He then hunted down the Tiger Clan thieves who framed him for murder, and killed them one by one. He captured their leader and took him back to his village, where he forced him to confess. He cleared his name with the Elk clan and became immortal in the sphere of energy, on the path of the Paragon, sponsored by Takati Stormtamer, at Atruagin's request, before Marmati's mortal form died. He became patron of the children of the Elk, and magic. In BC 450, dwarfs colonized the savage coast in areas abandoned by the Nithians, such as Untrue du Dragon, and the Montoya Hills. The Smithy clan colonized Cougar's Bluff. Some dwarfs may have colonized the Niedergard Mountains and the hills west of Tortle Country as well. The mountains of Hoyak and Zvornik may also have been settled in the eastern Gulf of Hule. Sometime between BC 450 and AC 350, via deduction, Numina, a hierarch of the sphere of thought, discovered the nucleus of the spheres in a cavern 10,000 feet underground, and its associated radiance in the highlands. He reported his discovery to the Immortal Council of Mystara, where it was decided that the device must be altered to maintain the balance of the spheres. The Immortals altered the nucleus of the spheres, so that each use of it would drain power from the sphere of energy. Sometime between BC 450 and AC 664, Alexander, a warrior, and Zenobia, a magic user, were crowned king and queen of Kinidikaya. During their reign they expanded the fertile lands around the city to their greatest extent through improved irrigation canal techniques. They employed a chamberlain, and a dwarven court jester for entertainment. Nobles swore fealty to the monarchs. Priests talked through statues of the immortals Gorm, Mardarua and Uzamigaras to convey the will of the immortals to the populace. They also used fireworks to create miracles. Members of the royal court hunted lions. On the 26th of Newmont BC 448, a massive force of orcs and hobgoblins from the Broken Lands surged almost 600 miles deeper into the caverns, and attacked the City of Stars. The hobgoblin forces made it to the steps of the Temple of Raphael, but were repelled by the Shadow Elves. Tens of thousands of Shadow Elves were slain. This concludes part 25 of the Lore of Mystara series, covering the period from BC 490 to BC 441. A period where the isolationist dwarfs left the safety of their mountains to explore, initiate foreign relations, and colonize far coastal mountains and hills to establish new mining operations.